Early August 2024 with the Lovelocks of Sunninghill. Rough cut photo trails. And as I always say, they will be rough cut. So, standard introduction first. Where we live at 22 Armitage Court, Sunninghill. Warning signs about fierce guard cats. And the place where GPS was tested from the late 1980s at this spot. So-called Robin's Corner, and the rather overgrown garden sculpture that June got for me for a birthday present several years ago. Right, there's the oak tree that sprung up from an acorn, and here we have Snoopy's robot boat, destined to make another attempt on the Atlantic this year, and it's been brought out here in the last few days to get more sunshine and to investigate a fault somewhere here. And yeah, so some of the later photo trails, the fault developed somewhere related to the wiring for this GPS logger. So some of the photo trails, certainly at the back end, will show more about that. So slight diversion there. Down our front drive, that's June's car. Promotion of the website, gpss.co.uk, that was a business many years ago and is now hobbies and charitable causes. Yes, there's the bicycle. Still haven't fixed the gearbox. There's a butterfly. Briefly said it. And this is the fort. This was made a year or two back now. Oh, there's another one. I'm not sure what that is. I said a butterfly. Yes, fierce armed mice. And this is where Toadie, Bentley sometimes hang out. You'll see those in the photo trails. So, coming near the front door, I've left it open deliberately. Yes, health and safety things first of all. There are cameras everywhere, closed circuit TV cameras inside and out this house, sound and video is monitored, local houses and everywhere. I have to emphasise that what I say are jokes, just in case somebody thinks I'm making threats or something. Yeah, so there are cameras, and one of the, oh yes, that one, no trespassing, violators will be shot, survivors will be shot again. And yes, there's another example of a camera, the ring camera that is normally up for you to press the button, but catches things like wildlife coming for the peanuts at the peanut feeder. Looks as though, yes, that needs topping up. And what else have we got? That's another lot of peanuts. So yes, that sign's probably relatively important because it's not just cameras. Home of mad ex-NATO scientist Robin Lovelock, beware of web cameras and water squirters loaded with water, paint, acid, DNA tracer or nerve agent. Robin would not be mad enough to test these, or would he? As I say, just a joke. Yes, so yes, some other stuff here. This is the camper that was used to take Snoopy's robot boat down to the coast for the last attempt, and here is the battle damage. June said Robin did it, Robin said the wall did it, but the wall is okay. So I think we can go safely into the house now. Now, this won't be such a big tour of the garden, but I will show the most recent stuff. So we're gradually getting to the stage of space outside for putting things, but the reason all this junk is here is I'm still working on things. And the most important work is related to the garden, to create space. But first of glance here, you get maintenance things like the cat had climbed up, knocked one of the cameras, knocked this down, so that's been fixed. Those sort of things appear on the photo trails. That's going back into lounge. But where The pond's still dropping. That's a job probably for the winter, but if we see where the leak is, then it's probably a simple job to make it better. Right, yes, there's the telescope. Haven't done that in recent years, built when I was a kid, still at school. Right, there's a present that June had given her. Here's the sundial. Yeah, according to that, it's saying it's about 9 o'clock GMT. Have I got that right? I think so. Yeah, 10 o'clock BST. That's right. Sundial's working. That. Yeah, there's the pointer. 9 o'clock GMT. Right, now this is where most of the work, if you call it work, has been going on, which is to create space, even more space, and the so-called workshop, and we're getting space to put things, and we're just finding things like drills tucked away all over the place. So those have got to be put prominently where you can see them. And the most recent job in the last day or two was literally somewhere for brushes. And yeah, there's a pot of paint. So generally the principle is, yes, hammers, they tend to be in the same place, files, saws of various kinds, lots more there. Right, that's the principle. What takes the time? First of all is to create the space. The next thing is to go through house and garden finding things, and we're getting close to the stage of moving stuff from the so-called summer house laboratory set of shelves there, so that things like hobby things like the electronics and the robot boats can be put where they can easily be found rather than tucked away in drawers. The drawers can be useful as well. Yes, and there's some other robot boats there. So, I said this wasn't going to be a long trial. Let's keep it as short as possible. In case of grabbing the opportunity. So, come back round here. Yeah, may as well give a glance at the other rooms. Lots of work needed by suitable handymen or ladies with plenty of common sense. So this is Robin's naughty corner, where I look at things like closed circuit TV. There's a more recent computer. Not sure if and when I'll get time to work on that. Yes, and what we have there on the screen is the tracker. A bit unusual from the point of view that it's public. The contact page has a link to it, and there we have, and it works quite well. So it's tracking wherever I'm going, updating several times a minute, and it says, yeah, there he is at 22 Armitage Court, the latitude, longitude, altitude, if that means anything, speed, and yes, it just done an update, and the time in GMT, 08:52 it says. Well, that was the last report. I expect the data has to go all the way from here through the telephone network to China probably before the website is updated. I often end the photo trails on that picture. There you go, little camera. And a glance of the untidy study just here. That's processing the video from the day before. It's Sunday today, so that was Saturday. Here's the kitchen. Yes, that was a job done. Temporary mirrors to get more light in. Just here. And also see some of the wildlife. Right, that's it. Ended up being a longer trail than intended. I think you've seen this room already. Lots of junk to be sorted out and put in the right place. And of course, some thrown away or given away. So, let's go into those long photo trials, and at the very end there'll be two clips filmed, whatever it was, 18 months ago I suppose, which were on two subjects. One, the very important subject of global warming and the prophetic words of James Lovelock, and the other topic is my experiences with the Driver Vehicle Licensing Agency of the UK. I shouldn't joke about it, but you can make your own decisions based on public information on that. So now into those long photo trails. Thursday the 1st of August 2024, starting with Toadie sleeping on duty, or pretending to sleep on duty. Yeah, so a bit of work was done in the garden, mixture of things happening, and a rare thunderstorm was coming through. I could see it on the websites, and so I was checking the websites, including prediction of lightning strikes and when the sound hits us, you know, what is it, 6 seconds a mile or something, and we had several strikes within, well, probably less than half a mile away. So anyhow, before the storm actually I was going out and got to us. I was going out and doing a little bit of work. Oh yes, June had bought another Ring camera, so got that working in the back. So this is the summary, and yes, at the back end of the day, check the closed circuit TV overnight. Yes, visit by the foxes, including those relaxing, and a glimpse of a bat. And yeah, June's watching the Olympics, time for bed. So that's the summary. Now into the photos in the order I shot them. Starting with the pond, and I thought I'd rake up some of that blanket weed and dump it down the end. But then I also saw we had a storm coming in, and yeah, I was checking a couple of websites for the best guess at when it would arrive. They're often within, if you use them in the right way, within half an hour, probably quarter of an hour, even better. There's Toadie watching what I'm doing. Yes, there's the Gunner Manticata. So went down the end. I basically was dumping the blanket weed that we had in the pond down the end rather than round the sides, and also deciding where I might shift tools around and move things. Like, yes, so that which is in the shed at the bottom, the tool shed, I've moved up. So it's gathering things together, deciding where places will hang tools from, but you first have the place to do it. So that's the continuing the same work. The storm was getting closer, so I'm ready for the heavy rain to start any time, and that's at yes, not sure what time that was. Anyhow, yeah, so that shows the storm practically on top of us at quarter to that, about 5:45 in the evening. And yes, so Toadie came in. It was getting a bit wet outside, and yes, so the rain really started to bout down, and yes, flooded the obvious places in the drive, but also, of course, any water coming down tops up the top pond. So that was one of the things I checked. Listened to the news at the same time as watching other things, and yes, there was that sad news, and more detail all about, well, I won't say too much, but hatred breeds a lot of problems. Okay, so continue with that, and checking the websites, and yes, so lots of rain there, and the pond has come up practically full. That was overflowing. It turned out it was a snail that was blocking the hole down the bottom. I just lifted it out, and the water drained away. So the pond must have gained 6 inches of water just in the, well, it was minutes really rather than hours of rain. Yeah, I turned the tap off there by the look of it. Plenty enough water around. And yeah, again, really finding places, tools to go, and bringing more tools from the bottom shed into where they will be hung when there's the right place for them hung. And an old fork, that was. All a question of things being where you can easily find them. So there's Toadie relaxing out the front, and yes, I noticed the ring camera had something rocket, and look, the one on the back, checking it out. Yes, so we're getting quite reasonable coverage. It's a different product, and but it's what June chose to buy, and we make good use of it. I probably would have bought a different one. Probably cheaper and more covert. Anyhow, all working well. Yes, afraid that was me. Oh yes, well, I found there was a limit of its range, so where I chose to put it was on that windowsill, because we haven't sorted out our Wi-Fi repeaters and things. So I would have put it closer to the greenhouse, but for the moment it still gives reasonable coverage where it is. And so now checking, and sure enough we can see those cameras on the old Windows PC as well. Yeah, so back end of the day, having a snack, doing the closed circuit TV check for the night before, including 2 foxes at the same time, and one relaxing on our front door mat, probably overseeing the younger fox having the peanuts. And 0419 GMT was when the cameras switched to colour for the day, so I'm running backwards now, and yes, wasn't much different there. Glimpse of a bat on the back camera, or one of the cameras, through till 2009 GMT when the camera switched to black and white for the night. Oh, you listen to the Radio 4 news at the same time with other things going on, including, I think that was live appearance of the fox caught on different cameras. June's watching the Olympics. So time for bed, and that's the end of the photo trail. Friday the 2nd of August 2024, starting with Toadie, guard cat on duty, and Bentley, the senior guard cat from opposite. This is the summary at the start. Basically, thought it had a problem with the key fob for the garage, but the good thing is, going in the garage, found a few things that we've got much better places for them, like materials, and for example the workshop area, now there is even more space to hang things. June got a bit obsessed with the present from Saskia, but no problem, ended up going in the right place that we're both happy with. And yes, I'm thinking the laboratory in the summer house is on the list of things. Got a nice surprise when I saw the microtransat site is coming along nicely, soon to be public, I imagine. Yes, closed circuit TV checks at the back end of the day, and eventually, after what must have been a day and a half of upload, the YouTube video for the end of July went up. So now into the photographs in the order they were shot, including the guard cats like Toadie and Bentley. Rather relaxed duty they seem to perform. Yes, hello Toadie. And yes, he did various places they choose. Right, I managed to get the garage door open and had problems with it, and I ran the car for a few minutes to make sure that it was still going to be running, and had a look round. Yes, so that was okay, and I saw a few materials. I mean, a lot of stuff that is junk that's got to be sorted out. Yes, lots of stuff in the garage, and there's some large bits of wood, and that rather nice picture I remember from my days at ESAMS. So yeah, car seems to be okay. Temporarily put that wood material around the side of the house, and yes, Bentley had knocked down the present from Saskia that I temporarily put up in the porch area, and June insisted getting on with it, and I said I could do the job properly, but anyhow I ended up finishing it off. And there's the process, which a fair proportion of my time was spent, which was putting the materials into a suitable place in the workshop area, obviously screwing it to the wood, and then the paint. I must admit I like that particular product. Yeah, it's coming up to 12 British Standard Time, which is about 11 GMT. Sundial seems okay. Now that thing was rather falling apart that June had been putting in, but that's a little background job. So yes, one of the things that's going on is processing of video. Oh yeah, well, the thumbs up was because cameras was showing June popping out. Yeah, it looks like I'm having lunch. I was able to rustle that up myself, didn't want to overload June. 11:05. Oh yes, that was the guy delivering peanuts, I think. Yes, so lots of those have arrived. So question of putting them in the right place. So one of them is under that white seat in the porch area, and taking the materials out. June's insisted on rushing ahead and working on her, well, it was a present from Saskia, and I'm happy with where she chose to put it. It's just a question of the detail of putting it there so it doesn't fall about. Yeah, start off with a bit of boss stick to hold them together. Fine, they pushed into the ground, but it looks neater if they're actually close together. I tried a bit of silicone sealant. End of the day, probably a soldering art, but there's more important things to get on with. So, yeah, on with the workshop. There's the laboratory area, and yes, it would be a question of what stuff comes out of that, and of course the key thing is putting stuff in carefully, but creating space is the key thing. So I'm relaxing there. Yes, that's probably Samantha came back from tennis. June hasn't been well enough yet to play tennis, but she copes brilliantly. Yeah, so that video, that was doing what I'm doing now, which is recording a commentary, and I had problems with the PC I normally do it on playing up, being a bit slow, so I had a workaround. Meanwhile, June had used a bit of intelligence and checked out whether the batteries were okay, or at least removed them from the key fob, and they both seemed to be fine. So that wasn't the cause of the problem we had, and then all of a sudden it seemed to be working okay. So we're not sure what it was. Might have been something inside the garage that got disturbed, so it was okay again. Right, saying 90% uploaded. Now that video did eventually upload that day, but it was I don't know, 30 hours or more. Anyhow, that's coming along nicely with wooden things. Oh yeah, got a call from Paul, I think that was. And yes, yeah, June watching the tennis and the Olympics and things. It says now it's got a step further. It said now it's got 2 hours and 60 minutes, I think, to go, and that hadn't appeared for well over a day. Oh yeah, it looked like the peanuts need topping up, so I went round the various bird feeders. Of course, it's not just birds that come for those. We've seen all sorts of things, squirrels, and at night slugs and things climb up there. So that's the one at the front, so that's well topped up now. That's to discourage them from going onto the ground. And there's the feeder I've topped up, that pipe, and that then from there's Toadie, sleeping on duty just for a change. So put the containers back. June's decided to start doing some cooking. Yes, got a call from Paul, that was good. And yeah, checking on visits to the website, because there's other dialogues going on which are not mentioned here. And yeah, we're very happy with the job that one of the guys working in the background on the microtransat site has done, and I can see them working on effectively a draft replacement of the microtransat site, and then that'll become live when everybody's happy with it. When I say replacement, it's pretty well the same thing. It's just updated information. And yeah, that's coming along nicely. Lots of white paint on things and lots of extra surfaces, so things can start moving into the right place. So far it's been moving from the bottom shed. Oh yeah, that was playing up the closed circuit TV camera. What the hell was that? But when I actually went round the back and just pressed one or two buttons, lo and behold, it was all okay. So it was probably just a bad contact. I said buttons, no, it was just the connectors. Right, so there's the foxes coming for the peanuts at the front, and that was through till 0424 GMT when the camera switched the colour for the day, and then going back from midnight, same sort of pattern, foxes coming practically through the whole day. 2007 GMT when the camera switched to black and white for the night. So what's house video uploading one? It's only got a little bit of work to do, very close. Uploading 100% it says. Well, it's got to be processing, which can take a little while. And there it is, it's gone up, and the big surprise is it had the automatic subtitles on. So I made a change or two with the description and time for bed. So that's the end of the photo trail. Saturday the 3rd of August 2024. Starting with this summary. Yes, that's Toady relaxing on duty. And yeah, servos arrived, second-hand ones, ordered on eBay, very cheap, but they might be better than other stuff, and they worked okay when I checked them. And then I noticed that the one that had been in the boat for a while didn't seem to be working perfectly, so I swapped those. Had a look in the garage, stuff coming out. What am I going to do about that old box? June says we got it in Holland in the 80s, sorry, the 70s. Yeah, bit of more progress in the workshop area. Video WhatsApp chat with family. Meanwhile, there's a conversation going on in the background with friends who worked at Ferranti back in 1970s, and it was great to be part of those conversations. So these are the photos in the order they were shot, or pretty well the same order. So yes, very cheap. They were taken out of an old aircraft, apparently, model aircraft, but for that reason they probably may not have had a lot of use. So I thought I'd better label things. So that one was removed, and although it might just about be working, has joined the old bits taken out of the boat, and most of those were completely damaged. And yes, found a few places for things, including the grumpy old man sign and the metal detector. Yes, sun was out, whatever time that was. And in the, doing pretty well the same job as I'm doing now, putting a commentary on the photo trail for the day before. June watching the tennis, rustling up something to eat. That was probably lunch. Take it into the naughty corner. Oh yes, followed up with some other nice stuff. And then I noticed on the closed circuit TV, Bentley relaxing on the car. got a blank picture there, not sure what happened. Anyhow, yes, more of that Rustin's white paint. Had a bit of a doze for an hour or so, and woke up. Yeah, on the closed circuit TV there's a pigeon coming for peanuts, and now it's Toady there, and I had a play with him and he bit me, but not very hard. Don't think it drew blood this time. So what else have we got? Yes, June's relaxing, watching the tennis, and yeah, look at all that junk. I mean, that's on the queue. It's a matter of doing things in a sensible order. And that old box, yes, lots of stuff. So I put some of the tools in the workshop area at the back, like those spare hacksaw blades, and one or two other things, drills. June's rustled up the evening dinner, video WhatsApp chat with family, and lots of things going on at the same time, including yes, I put an order for another one of those boxes to replace the old one that's in the garage, and closed circuit TV was playing up, shone a light on it, and that seemed to do the job, seemed to switch back. I've seen that happen before, so not sure what the root cause is. Yeah, that's the Swan kit, but I've used for years. Listened to the Radio 4 News, did a rough closed circuit TV check for the night before. Foxes come in at the front porch through till 04:26 GMT when the camera switched to colour for the day, going backwards. Same sort of visitors, foxes, and yeah, me doing a bit of work, if you call it that. Camera switched at 2010 GMT for black and white for the night, so that was that done. Oh, there's live fox, and on the ring camera. And yes, there was a chat going on in the background with guys, and it was good to be part of those conversations. So that's the end of the photo trail. Sunday the 4th of August 2024, starting with Toady relaxing in the garden, as it turns out. And yes, a little bit of work was done in the garden, but also the ring camera was repositioned to give a better view of things coming for the peanuts on the left there. And yes, what else? Oh yes, June helped a bit there, and that arrived by Amazon, which is a shelf unit, and I put up a shelf for it. I say shelf unit, it was a box for bits, and Samantha was shown where to get glue to fix a mug. We took a walk down. There was a power cut at the time. Met some guys in the village. I picked up a bit of what I considered more urgent shopping, and there was a dialogue going on when the Oztax opportunity arose, and I was going through old diaries, and the number of leads, yes, it corresponded to Rudy coming over at the time of the one of the Gulf Wars. So back end of the day, take a walk down to the village into the Comrades Club, spend a little bit of time there, but the important thing was after that I popped across and was made very welcome by Adriano, his wife, and the guys, and a new person I hadn't met at all, which was Steve Ponsford, a relative of June, and looking forward to getting together and chatting about all sorts of things. So that's the end of the summary. Time for bed, of course. Now into the photos in the order they were shot, starting with Toady, and be looking around for bits and pieces in the garden. And yes, there's Toady relaxing, and thought, one of the reasons I was looking around for bits is how to better position that ring camera to pick up the foxes and things coming for the peanuts on the left there, peanut feeder. And anyhow, it was working well. New position is a better position. Samantha wanted to fix a broken mug, so I showed her where the glue was kept and how to use it. And we had a power cut lasting a little while, which was important background activity. So anyhow, that ring camera is working fine. Yes, bit of processing of the video from the day before, exactly like I'm doing now. And yes, no power there, you notice. And yes, I found a great big lovely pot of paint, so that was helping the work in the workshop area. And yes, the robot boat needs to have some work done on it. There's Toadie relaxing. There's a lily coming up in the pond. Water level's still dropping, and it's a matter of putting things back in the right place. I found the old GPS logger, and right, Samantha agreed to take a walk down to the village, said hello to a couple of the guys. That's where the work was going on. Spoke to the workmen as well, and they confirmed, yeah, we'd be getting power soon. Came back with a little bit of shopping, which I considered to be a little bit more urgent, rather than June have to get it that quickly. Yes, the ring camera was working quite well, and shopping had to be put in the right place. That's what I considered relatively urgent shopping: the smoked salmon, the buns, and the cornets. Right, that shelf arrived by Amazon. Put the cardboard packaging where it belongs, in the dustbin, and looking at a place to put it now in the workshop area. And yeah, there's a bit of material that'll do nicely as a shelf, so fix that in place. And then of course that big pot of paint I'd found, paint it white. That was also relatively quick drying, so it meant, you know, an hour or two later I was able to put the shelf in place. And oh yes, a chat with Terry it started, and we were trying to pin down when we were both working on Oztax, which is a bid into Australia, and I realised I did some which corresponded to Rudy coming over at the roundabout end of 1990, I think, because it coincided with the Gulf War. And Terry was saying that his passport showed that he'd been working on it several years after, if I've got that right. Anyhow, back end of the day, time to take a walk down to the village and into the Commerce Cub. Yes, there's the road closed still. And enjoyed a 0% Peroni there. And yes, the tracker, anybody could see where Robin was. And yes, it was... the key thing is, when I checked at Sorrentino, I was made very welcome, and that guy, Steve Ponsford, and yes, the rest of the family and guys there. So then walking back, it was pretty late then. It was well after midnight. I think it was best part of 12:30 when I got back. Certainly after I'd checked a few things, like yes, confirm the tracker's working, so anybody interested could say, yeah, there's Robin, what he's up to down in the village after midnight. And yes, tracker showed me getting back here, so time for bed. So that's the end of the photo trail. Monday the 5th of August 2024, starting with Toadie on guard duty outside the games room, guarding the robot boat that might make an attempt across the Atlantic this year, but there's a silly little mistake somewhere in the wiring, and I still haven't tracked out what it is. It's basically well, something that's not right. So that's a background activity that's been going on for several days, but good progress being made to create space in the workshop area, and starting to put screws in the little, whatever you call it, and create even more space. Yeah, trip to the bank, or what serves as a bank locally, and that was an interesting exercise, reinforced me wanting to follow that procedure. And then we popped in with a newsletter to surprise relative Steve Ponsford, and yeah, topping up the bird feeders around with peanuts, of course. Dinner in the evening. Oh yes, dialogue with old Franti mate Pete Wilson. Right, that's the end of the summary. So now the photos in the order they were shot, starting with Toadie, and a session trying to track down that problem. Well, rather than display here, when you switched it on from its normal power, it doesn't seem right, and yeah, probably created a short or something in the wiring of the last thing that went in, which was the GPS logger, or it could be something's failed. I don't know. Just do a little bit of work on that every day, and doing the commentary for the day before, as I'm doing now, and then Samantha and June decided to pop off to do a bit of shopping. Well, Bracknell first of all. Yeah, the tracker showed where they went. So Samantha wanted to get some things in the shops in Bracknell, and then June was going to pop into the big shop in Martin's Heron afterwards. So the trackers work quite well. And yeah, so a bit more work on that. Oh yes, that's pointing out the Spot Satcom tracker that is in the boat, and there's a spare one which is in the car, and so we're checking out those. Yeah, and anybody can look at those on the contact page. So that's the Spot tracker, all working well. And yeah, the Goat Hawk tracker is a bit faster. Oh, there's a squirrel looking out the games room window, and then on the closed circuit TV, and I can see some little bit of vegetation hiding that spot. So that's working well. Yes, that will gradually get tidied up. It's a matter of doing things in the right order. Yeah, the pond's dropped a lot, so that's definitely a job for the winter, but you keep an eye on it, and sometimes can do a few things that don't take too much time. So walking down the garden, yeah, pulled up a few of the plants and dropped them in the compost heap, and yes, good progress being made there. Plenty of space, and that little set of plastic drawers started to put things like nails and screws into them, and yeah, back into the games room. Haven't tied up that. Yes, I had trouble with the camera shutter sticking. I put that on charge again, and looks like I'm taking a lunch snack through. Oh yes, message. Looks like another change of ownership related to the TSO site that's been down for some time, or lots not been able to update it. So I checked out the change of ownership, and I thought that might have been the same guy by name, but no, that looks like the right guy. That's the risk of googling a name. And anyhow, American-owned company, and so we're off to the bank. I think the road's closed, so we don't go through Sunninghill, through South Ascot. I say the bank, Barclays Bank had closed some time ago, but they've got a little building which somebody is able to man, and I like doing it the manual way. I can go into detail for anybody who's interested, but there's a well documented history on that. It all comes down to not relying for important things on computers alone. And then a little trip. It was a real challenge finding Steve. I only met him the day before, but we did, or I did. And so I delivered the newsletter so that we made contact with him, practically walking distance from us. And then back home, and Bentley relaxing across the road, and yeah, check the tracker so I can see where we went. So including into the place near Index House, where the temporary bank premises are, and then looking around, walking around trying to find the right place in South Ascot, and then back here. Yeah, a bit more work on that. Different experiments trying to say where could the problem be. You know, it could be something like just the connector. Don't know, but that's the sort of, you get a bright idea on what check to do. And of course there's nobody looking over my shoulder. Yeah, so then starting to put screws and nails and things into what seemed to be the right drawers, and tearing off the labels that came with them, poking that in the same container so there's a record of what they are. And yes, put another little shelf there, painted it, and so we created lots of space for things. So I gradually start moving things out. Yeah, time to top up peanuts, so round on the top bridge, and I just shifted that. That was triggered by things like mice moving near it, and that's the one, yes, near the second pond. And then there's the one on the roof, and yeah, mostly birds, but you also get slugs and snails coming there. And I did have a bright idea that was to make a garlic slate. Oh yes, that's a terrible slate. That's the telephone system wiring. That's been outstanding for years. Nothing been done about that. Yes, apparently slugs don't like garlic, so I had thought of making a little, yeah, there they are on closed circuit TV, slugs and snails at night going up to those peanuts. I had thought of making a little garlic helter-skelter, the garlic butter, but no, that's not a good idea. And as the conversation over the net with Pete Wilson, to see what happens. So, time for bed, and that's the end of the photo trail. Tuesday the 6th of August 2024. First a summary, starting with Toadie in the garden, relaxing, he finds places. And this photo trail takes us into the workshop area, which is coming along nicely, including putting things where I've created space, and contacted by Anjana, lady journalist. It was about the subject of the sad subject of David Sand's death, but of course there could be other topics come up. Yes, a bit of progress on the logger, finding out problems with it, and this is the logger that's destined to go in the transatlantic boat, and so more tests on that. Back end of the day, something to eat in the naughty corner, had a look at the closed circuit TV. Yes, young foxes coming front and back for the peanuts. June's watching the tennis, of course. So that's the end of the summary. Now into the photos in the order that they were shot. Going out into the garden, and yes, there's Toadie relaxing on one of the chairs, and making my way round to the workshop area, and very pleased how that's coming along. I'm creating extra space for things, trying to keep things in the right place, and the bright idea mentioned earlier was silicone sealant to glue examples of the various nails and screws onto the front of the drawers. Much easier than writing labels. And yeah, that's coming along nicely. And looking around at the other area, it's now really a case of putting things in the right place. Ah yes, whatever. And yes, contacted by email from Anjana. And before we get into discussing any subject, particularly a difficult subject, then it's important that the people know each other. I like that picture. Yes, so lots of these things going on in parallel. And what have we got next? Oh yes, Bentley decides to reside for a little while in the cat fort that I made. Oh yes, conversations with the community interested in the robot boat stuff. And yes, there's Bentley relaxing on top of one of the cars. And there's the GPS logger, which I've been testing, running in it a report every 1 second. Plug it in, And the good news is that it only used up a small amount of the memory. However, when I then tried to look at the data that it recorded, it didn't seem complete. Yes, it was the right data, but very patchy. And of course there were known faults in the data, like the date, but one can probably work that out. So I'm looking at the detailed data there, and that was part of the conversations that were documented for the other community. So I wasn't sure what the problem was, but of course it could have just been the power solution that I put together. So yeah, I was having to look in the diary to find out exactly when I'd switched the thing on. And of course I googled up and found known errors in that design of logger. So that looked as though I'm switching it on again for testing. It was set at every 1 second. This is just for testing, probably be set to every 1 minute once we know that it works reliably. So, having food at the back end of the day. Oh yes, loads of visits. I did a posting on the Google groups, including the Micro Transat, and yes, there's relevant pages linked there, which have been updated now for anybody interested. And yeah, coming up to 9 o'clock when I've switched that logger on for another test, which will run over several days, and we'll see that it does collect all the data. Hopefully it does. That's the closed circuit TV check for the night before, just a quick check. Yes, foxes. And through till 04:26 GMT when the camera switched to colour for the day, and then running back from midnight. Yeah, fox on the back bridge. And yeah, cameras switched to black and white for the night at 20:04 GMT. So that's pretty well done. June's watching the tennis, time for bed, so that's the end of the photo trail. Wednesday the 7th of August 2024. Basically starting with a summary, and there's the cat from the back of us having a face-off with Toadie, who wouldn't retreat, so the cat slunk back. And a little bit of work done in the garden. Yes, grabbed the chance when the sun was out to check the sundial. And the main work is in the workshop area, and are starting to move stuff from the so-called summer house laboratory, and also a bit of work on the robot boat, like the GPS logger checking, and trying to puzzle out why that power doesn't seem right in the box of electronics at the back. So I've been inspecting the wiring, and I ordered some more switches in case it was the switch itself that was bad. But yeah, there's Toadie watching June in the garden. June's rustled up food in the evening, did the closed circuit TV check, and yes, fox is arriving and been caught on the little ring camera that's low down, and that also caught the hedgehog as well. Noticed that the bird feeders, including on the roof, needed topping up, so went up on the roof, topped up that with peanuts, looked down, there's June looking up and watching the tennis, of course. So that's the end of the summary. So now into the photos in the order they were shot, starting with Toadie facing off the cat that had come over from the back garden. The cat decided to slink off. I had seen him upstairs in the house the night before, so checking, yeah, because the sun was out as I walked down there to check the sundials, and yeah, a few snaps of the garden. That's not looking too badly, or too bad. There's the Gunra manticata. Yeah, there's some insects coming to the plants, and the main activity is in that workshop area to be hung up and materials put in the right places, and starting to move stuff now from the so-called laboratory, gradually finding bits and pieces and deciding where to put them. Key thing is to decide where to put them. Oh yes, processing of the video from the day before, as I'm doing today. And what else have we got? Oh, it looks like June and Samantha coming back from tennis. They did go off to tennis, so yes, go out, and they're arriving. And yes, there's Bentley relaxing in the sunshine, and he decides to come over. Hello, Bentley. Yeah, he could decide to come into the house as well, probably to have a late, yes, have a late breakfast. Mind you, he has to queue behind Toadie, and then he has his food. There's the Go Top SOS tracker that shows where June is, and there's the pictures of them arriving on the Ring camera down low to catch the wildlife coming for the peanuts. And there's my tracker. Anybody can see where my tracker is, and therefore probably me. Yes, that was so things don't always work perfectly, but well enough. Yeah, that looked okay. That's putting the same video from that little Ring camera up on the large screen driven by the cheap PC. Oh, that's the Swan CCTV cameras that I've had for years, and of course they don't suffer from the problems you can expect with things that are relying on the net. And there's the graph of total deaths, so I had to make sure I did that right. Yeah, seems to be okay, and shows okay. Make sure I print a copy as well, don't rely just on digital forms. Oh yes, now I know that has gone wrong, or rather failed, the battery charger. So I looked on the net and found a cheap one that seemed to be plug compatible, and ordered that. Put a big white cross in Tipex on the one that seems to be faulty, so don't throw it away until after the new one has come in and been checked out. There's the GPS logger, the Canway logger, and yes, I'm doing some more tests. So starting at midday, be it British summertime that is, so it'll be 1100 universal time or GPS time, GMT. And yeah, so several things on the go at the same time. I'm trying to track down where that power problem is, and some things work and some things don't. You're checking voltages and things. Basically, if I put a battery straight onto the autopilot, it works fine, but it's that solar powered system that seems to have a problem. Yes, so more tools being put into the right places, using the right tools for the job, basically looking in detail at the wiring and the connections inside the box of electronics. So when you find something, you say, well, that seems to be okay. Why? Yeah, now looking at the switches in a bit more detail. Yes, yeah, don't understand that. Anyway, Toadie's tailored interest. There's a blank screen, not sure what that was. There's Bentley. And right, so the GPS logger has been left on the corner. In fact, I took a little walk around with it, and that data hopefully will all have been recorded, and we can check it in a few days. So back into the laboratory area, and yes, found a good place for a spare, whatever you call that, set of boxes for bits. And then of course I already had something similar in the workshop area, so it's a case of you find things and say where's the right place to put it, and sometimes it's something useful. Now those switches, so I looked on the net and I ended up ordering stuff from Amazon for delivery the next day, and so yeah, it's a bit fiddly getting them out, but essentially removing the switches that have been there for some time. I'm not sure when those switches were actually changed, so it may have made, oh, don't know, several attempts on the Atlantic with switches not being changed. and you never know, there might be leakage somewhere. The end of the day, don't know, nobody else helped me looking over my shoulder. So yeah, peanuts now have been put out. Yeah, the pond's dropping low again. As I said before, that's a job for the winter, but it's losing a lot of water. It's difficult to say what route the water's taken. And yeah, it's totally watching June putting the washing out or bringing it back in. And yes, what are those? Blackberries coming along nicely. Back into the summer house laboratory, and those two metal detectors, I've hung them up outside. Yes, there's me with a Gunra Manticata. June's rustled up dinner for the evening. Take that into Robin's naughty corner, where I can watch the closed circuit TV live. Oh yes, got a call from Paul. That was good. And what else? Yeah, probably doing the check for the night. So you see the fox come in for peanuts, several visits, and also caught on the small ring camera low down that gets close-ups of them. There's one sat relaxing. There's a hedgehog. Now, the only thing is, because the times are in GMT, it's easy to get confused, and that was in fact an hour or so earlier the previous day. So when you're comparing the images from two cameras, I've realised one is in local summertime and the other one's in GMT. Anyhow, 20:02 GMT is when the camera switched. So I then had a look at that other facility, just in case I might make use of it. And yeah, I noticed that the peanuts needed topping up, so top those up. That's up on the roof. Took one or two pictures looking down from the roof, and walked round and looked down through those windows or skylights, and there's June looking up. Yes, came out all right. And yeah, back downstairs, there's that logger going. Going to collect a few days, and hopefully this time it'll have collected all the data without missing any. So time for bed. So that's the end of the photo trail. Thursday the 8th of August 2024, starting with Toadie on guard duty. Yes, this is the summary, of course. We had our pub lunch. Stuart drove to the Duke of Edinburgh at Woodside, Ascot, at the round table, and a few snaps showing what we ate. And then we that is the band sorry, Freudian slip, that was Inch's cat. Yeah, we had coffee there. And then June and I took a walk down to the Bansals in the village, spent quality time with dog Romeo and Raj and a new member of the family. And yes, hello Romeo. So I popped into Tesco Express and got some essential shopping, and saw that a courier had been, and yes, he brought things like switches that might end up being the solution in the robot boat, and a new power supply that might fix the faulty Maplin drill we got. Yeah, back end of the day eating, and then I saw on the closed circuit TV that Toadie had knocked that plank down. It hadn't been properly secured, so I bodged that, ready to be done properly the next day. Yeah, foxes appeared on the closed circuit TV, the normal Swan cameras, and also the small cameras hidden down low, and reset and started the GPS logger. So that's the end of the summary. So now into the photos in the order they were shot, starting with that Robin on the closed circuit TV. Yes, there's Stuart arriving, and yeah, past a few landmarks. Pubs are usually the important landmarks because they've been there for often hundreds of years. And yes, there's the round table booked at the Duke of Edinburgh at Woodside, and yes, that's what each of us was eating. Looked quite nice. I had that usual. Excuse me. Then there were grapes in the back garden I saw, and yeah, so we're now leaving. making our way back past the racecourse and the middle of Ascot and the Swindley pub in South Ascot, into Armitage Court and into Richard and Fay's for coffee. But I pop in first home to check, well, yes, had a look at where we'd been, make sure anybody knew where we were, or at least where I was, and also some important emails like Alexei in Russia. And yeah, then June and I go out for coffee, and there's the Pussycat Scamper, I think it's called, and enjoy the coffee and biscuits and things there, cake as well, of course. And those aren't all the photos I took, by the way. Oh yes, bit of tidying up needed, and so few snaps. That pond has dropped, job for the winter, but if one sees where the leak is, I might do something about it. And yes, that shows other places visited, not very accurately, of course. There's Toadie guarding the front, and we take a walk down to the village because June had got a call from Bal, so we pop into them. Hello, dog Romeo. Yes, and Raj, and Ammon is the husband of Mandy, and there's a doggy, and yeah, so relaxing included in the garden, and I pick up some essential shopping and make our way back home. Yes, check the tracker, so that shows walk down to the village, and June watches the tennis. Yes, that's off the closed circuit TV showing the visit of the packages that were handed over to Samantha. Looks as though he was taking an interest in some of the stuff on the porch. He didn't need to photograph the front because Samantha came to the door, it seems. And what he delivered, what I ordered the day before, which were switches that might end up being used in the robot boat, and a new power supply for the 40 old Maplin's drill. And yes, did the processing for the video for the day before. Spent a bit of time trying to see whether that power supply fixed the problem with the drill, but no, didn't seem to behave as I would expect. No red light came on. Could be all sorts of problems. Oh yes, the closed circuit TV showed Toadie up on the platform on the rear patio, and yes, there's the foxes coming for peanuts on the front porch, and yes, they also show up on the little ring camera that's down low, giving a close-up of anything that comes to the peanuts, through to 0425 when the camera switched to colour for the day. They're then running backwards. These aren't all the visits, but representative, seem to be mostly foxes, and through to when the camera switched to black and white at 1956 GMT. And yes, I saw on the closed circuit TV that didn't look right, and that plank hadn't been secured since I put it up, and yes, the GPS logger, I didn't reset it, I just simply moved it and made sure that it was on getting power. So time for bed, so that's the end of the photo trail. Friday the 9th of August 2024, starting with Toadie relaxing in the garden where a little bit of work was done. This is the summary, of course, at the start, and be taking photos as a record. But yes, put another place for things that he hung up, this time brushes. Also did a bit of work on the boat and checking the voltage when you switched it on, which went down, and then I suddenly thought, perhaps it's the solar power system, so put it outside. And yes, so we'll see how things develop there. Closed circuit TV check, yeah, foxes coming, and the hedgehog for the peanuts that left out for them. June watching the tennis. Time for bed. So that's the end of the summary. So now into the photos and the order they were shot, starting with Bentley on one of the seats in the back garden, and took a few snaps showing how the pond has dropped. And I've said many times it's a job for the winter, but I can afford to monitor how far it drops, and it may reveal a crack or a hole. Yeah, so taking a few snaps around the garden and into the workshop area, and partly because I'd found some scraps of wood, and also, yes, things like drills, they all need to be visible and in the same sort of place. Yes, recorded the video photo trail for the day before, like I'm doing now, and yes, sundial seems to be roughly right. June's relaxing in the garden with Samantha. Of course, I'm doing all the hard work, so I'm raking a bit of the blanket weed out, so you can actually, it reveals as the water drops what the bottom is like. And yes, down the garden, and yeah, looking around behind the greenhouse. I spent a little bit of time on that computer that I bought some time ago with Windows 11 or whatever it is on it, and I thought it might make the video processing a lot faster than what I'm using on this old Windows 7 PC, but I had problems with that. Not worth wasting a lot of time on it, but yes, now if I'd remembered the magic code, I could have avoided having to pay, so I shut that down. Job for another time. I was looking around for light bulbs to check the power for the boat. Yes, and found bits of other material in the garage, and then I was thinking, right, is it related to that power supply? You know, something like a leaky battery. So yes, going out to put the boat outside to leave it in the sun for a few days, and we'll see whether it recovers. And if it doesn't recover, we can look more closely. I had to make sure it didn't get blown down with a strong wind, so that was a simple solution of a prop. Checking the voltage, switched off and switched on, and it had gone down to 2.07 from 5 point something. So that's the problem that I've had for some time, or at least noticed it for the last month or two, but haven't diagnosed it despite all the fiddling about with the wiring. So checking the position, and yes, might as well stick those switches back in place rather than replacing them. We need to diagnose properly what the problem is, and it might be nothing to do with the switches, which looked alright even though they hadn't been changed for a while. Yeah, looking down the end of the garden, that's where I dumped the blanket weed, I think. And yes, peanuts, topping up the peanuts, so it's getting a bit later in the day. She's rustled up food, so I take that into the naughty corner in the lounge where I can relax, and then checked out. It got dark by then, and did the closed circuit TV check, or a quick one. Yes, foxes coming at the front porch where the peanut feeder is there. And what else have we got? Yes, that was until 04:31 when the cameras switched, GMT, when the cameras switched to colour for the day, and then going back from midnight. And there's a there's a hedgehog coming for the peanuts, and through till 1938 GMT when the cameras switched to black and white for the night. Yeah, so that'll do on that front. June's watching the television. Time for bed. That's the end of the photo trail. Saturday the 10th of August 2024, starting with a summary, and that's Bentley patrolling the front, and Toadie is relaxing on top of the car, supposedly guarding our boat, which is now in the front. I say our boat, that's Snoopy's robot boat. And for the last few weeks we've had a problem not yet diagnosed with the power. When you switch the power onto the autopilot, the voltage drops. Yeah, so the women are back from tennis, and I'm doing a little bit of work, lots of things going on in parallel, and back end of the day, June's rustled up food. I can enjoy the closed circuit TV live and do a check for the night before, and yeah, check outside. Robot boat seems okay. June's watching the tennis. Time for bed. So that's the end of the summary. Now into the photos in the order they were shot. Starting with, I was making a note of the actual voltages, and it took a while to track that down. That's been plaguing me for some, well, weeks really, and in fact I tracked it down. It was when I modified the power wiring to supply the that's the cat. Yeah, supply the logger. Yeah, that's Bentley now checking out the boat. Had a look at the weather. Yeah, looks like it's going to be warm again. And June's white Go Top SOS tracker is public on the contact page, but gives me warning when she's on her way back. And that's the other tracker, the Spot T tracker. That didn't seem right, so that's on the list of things to have a look at. Probably just a simple thing, probably just needed restarting when I was messing around with the power. It probably reset. Yeah, so that's the Spot Satcom's tracker that is staying in the boat. Put the things back where they belong. That was the screwdriver used to take the lid off. And that's the Spot T tracker, and yeah, that's good now. I basically pressed the button on the front to make sure it was running, and yeah, and it also showed moving to the front. And there's June's tracker. Looks as though she might be on the way home, and with Samantha, that is, after playing tennis. Yeah, look at the closed circuit TV. There's Toady relaxing on the barbecue. What a new spot he's found. Yes, hello Toady. Spends a lot of his time sleeping. So looks like I'm taking a wander down the garden, taking a look at the pond. That's still dropping. As I've said many times, the job for the winter when the vegetation can be removed, but sometimes the problem can be revealed. Just don't know what it is yet. It just keeps dropping, so it may be a hole much further down. Anyhow, what else we got there? Oh, you're just looking around the pond still. No signs of the water leaking out there. Just photographs from different directions. Yes, put that little back. Yes, there's the blackberries or currants coming out. Blackberries, I think those are called. And yeah, so it's just looking around that area, and that shows the women on their way back, and here they are arriving, and Samantha's looking across the road at Bentley, I think. I just simply took a picture of the tracker, and then yes, it shows them back. A quick glance at the study. Yeah, processing of the video for the day before, putting a commentary on it, just like I'm doing for this one. And yes, no water coming out of that pond pump. It's funny, it's not very predictable on how that behaves. Oh, yes, we got a couple of letters, and I checked out the guy who'd signed it, and it was basically somebody who'd created false insurance using my name, but no problems with that. And it was a very useful chat with Steve at the company that dealt with it, and yeah, so people might get a visit. Yeah, so now there's another little job, which is somewhere to put the brushes in the workshop area, and I basically often involves putting a shelf in, and that case was a zigzag of wires and painting it all white. Then a bit more work on the boat, if you call it work, checking voltages. Sure enough, the voltage goes down when you switch on the power. And then he said, but looking at things like videos and work, yeah, all of the uh, the whole boat system and the solar panels were all changed. Yeah, the diagram is still pretty well the same on the design page. But what I zeroed in on is this problem has only arisen recently, and if you power the autopilot directly from plugging a battery into where it is, it's fine. The problem comes in taking the power from the boat supply, and the problem is only, yeah, the servo is all part of it. Anyhow, got various tests and ideas being checked out, but of course there's nobody to check the wiring, and it's quite possible that either the wiring is wrong or I damaged the diode, which might now be short circuit instead of only one way. Don't know yet. Yeah, a bit of work on the workshop area. So what we got there, just showing you the state it's in. It's getting to the stage now we've got plenty of space, and so it's a case of putting things like the brushes in a sensible place where anybody can see them. And if you tend to put the same things in the same sort of places, it's a lot easier to find. You don't have to remember. And yeah, so had a bit of a doze, not for very long. Listened to the Radio 4 news. Then he says, ah yes, that tracker, sorry to beg your pardon, that is the GPS logger that's going in the boat. And that's where I suddenly realised that it was probably when I put that in just there, and when I did the wiring, it wasn't a lot of it, but even a small amount of wiring could have had a mistake, or just a temporary mistake when I was checking it out, which caused something to fail somewhere. And that confirms the power going directly from a battery is no problem. It's when the power comes from the boat supply to the autopilot. So we're zeroing in slowly on where the problem is. June's rustled up food, looks like a curry. Take it into the naughty corner in the lounge where I can relax. And yes, there were some pigeons. It's interesting, 3 or 4 argue. Oh yes, the video WhatsApp chat with family. It started in the kitchen and then continued in the lounge. And I finished off taking the pictures for the closed circuit TV check. Yeah, the foxes. Not all the visits, as I say, but that was through to 0428 GMT in the morning when the camera switched to colour for the day. Then going backwards from midnight. Yes, young foxes again. And on the back bridge as well. Yes, there is a fox. And Bentley from opposite decided to come over. And there's a glimpse of a bat. I think that's what it was. It's very difficult to know. Could have been bat or some other flying thing. 1958 GMT when the camera switched to black and white for the night. So there's a couple of snaps outside. And yeah, June's watching the tennis. Time for bed, and that's the end of the photo trail. I should have warned you that those would be long photo trails. So we're about now to go into that material that was shot like that 18 months or so ago perhaps, and I think that started at about here. Now what I put on the screen, because global warming is rearing itself, it's something that's been on my grumpy page for years. The remarkable James Lovelock, who passed away on the 26th of July, his 103rd birthday. I'll read out what this says here. This has been on the grumpy page for years, not long after the publication of his book, Revenge of Gaia. We can't stop global warming, but we may delay it by a few decades to give us time to prepare for its effects. Vast areas of the world, including as close as continental Europe, becoming arid desert. Shrinking of habitable areas of the planet to much smaller parts of the planet, closer to the poles. The Earth will then only be able to support a small fraction of its present population, and there will be a need for massive migration. Places like the UK will remain temperate a little longer, so be an attractive destination. We need all world governments to cooperate to prepare for this inevitability. Also to agree things like reduce use of fossil fuels to give us a few more decades to prepare. And then it goes on. The above is not a quote, but how I remember what James Lovelocks said in his book, The Revenge of Gaia, etc. That's been unchanged on my site for years. And right, well, the other thing I should mention, yes, retired happy and spending that kid's inheritance, is for some time now I've not been able to drive due to, well, several mistakes at the DVLA. And what I will say is that I have new evidence of what happened inside the DVLA, which I won't publish yet because I'm still waiting for the reply to the letter which was delivered by recorded delivery to the head of the DVLA and also other people. So I'll put in at the end of this long video the video that's gone up, me talking about the DVLA, and basically in summary it says I don't want anybody to get into trouble, and that is definitely the case, and resigning is too easy. Problems need to be fixed. But quite honestly, that is a minor thing compared with all the other things that are going on in the world, not least wars, and of course what's in the background and very important is global warming. So let's run into that. Back in 2012.
We've seen the launch of a transatlantic sailing attempt this morning in a model boat. Retired NATO scientist Lovelocks launched his Snoop Loop from Barton-on-Sea towards the Bahamas. It's already been tested over 5,000 miles on a lake in Berkshire. The model will be steered and tracked through a satellite system and by Snoopy, of course, and it should make the crossing in 6 months, if it survives, that is.
The most important thing of the lot, of course, is Snoopy the Viking, the skipper. I don't think he'd make it otherwise. We've also got another bit and piece here. This is a GPS logger that logs the position every 15 minutes. That was back in 2012. The guy that put this material together, including the live broadcast and what went up on the BBC website, is Ben Moore.
I just worry for Snoopy. Sport now and Hampshire.
Right, on to the next topic. Right. Now, I'm going to do this all in one take. All unrehearsed and unscripted, so sorry about that. What I'd like to happen, if anybody picks up on the DVLA story, is, as I say, nobody getting into trouble, and that's a genuine request, but when they find flaws in procedures where they don't cover certain things, be good if those are fixed. What I think would be useful for anybody looking at the DVLA and perhaps helping them is, first of all, their organisation chart showing the structure. Yes, it's well known who the head of the DVLA, remarkable woman, looking at her CV, and relevant to this story is the head of the health part. But it would be very useful to see, even if names aren't attached, obviously the names can be attached where they're public already, is how many people in each branch, how many people are reporting to how many. So a simple tree would help. I suggest that first of all. Then, perhaps even more important, is how many people working for the DVLA, even if you don't identify the individuals, are salaried by the DVLA excuse me, directly, as opposed to contracted through an agency or a business. That is very important, and we've seen what's been happening in places like the NHS for years. So that comes into the equation in terms of whether money is well spent. And of course the DVLA collects a lot of money. And there are probably other things as well. But as a starting point, I'd hope anybody that responds to this, I can't afford to get overloaded. We've got other things to do, many other things to do. And we'll be taking a holiday. That'll be public, yes. I'm tracked everywhere by different things. And in fact, if anybody's paranoid about it, anybody who's tracking somebody or looking at somebody's probably seen already. But at the end of the day, there's me whittering on, which is one of my main weaknesses since I was a little child. That's why if you put things up, clearly be careful what you put up, and often it can do some good. I'm now in the kitchen and June's rustling up some food in the microwave for Samantha, and here's Samantha, and of course there's tennis on the television just for a change. So, oh yes, point out holidays in we're going off to Sicily again soon, and into the hall. Yes, nice expensive paintings here. Yep, expensive little pocket camera, not expensive, and through into the lounge and out to wrap up this video by saying, look after yourselves, stay safe, and enjoy what days we have. Yes, it's now middle of March 2024, and the pond's changed quite a bit. I'll have to change the copyright statement at the end, but the message is the same. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and enjoy life while we can. Oh yeah, my hair's grown a bit since then.